Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. My dear brothers and sisters, we continue with Nida'atul Iman, the verses that started with Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. And today's verse 102 from Surah Ali Imran, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. This verse 102 from Surah Ali Imran, and a simple meaning for this was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the Exalted said, believers, fear Allah as He should be feared, and see that you do not die save in submission to Allah. Now when you read this verse that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us to fear Him as supposed to be, and we read other verse that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as you are able to do so. So is it like, as supposed to be, or as we able? You might feel that there's a contradiction. Not at all, there's no contradiction. Even sometimes if it's appear any contradiction that as it's appear, but you have to go in depth to look at those verses together. Actually, this verse revealed first, and then the Sahaba, they felt kind of embarrassment. It's hard for them. They felt kind of a burning on them. How we can fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as it should be. That's not something that possible, that we cannot really do that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as the way to make it easier for them, and as the way to explain that for them, He said, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. In fact, if you fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and at the maximum of your ability, that means you fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as supposed to be, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never ask you something beyond your ability. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا ما آتاها. So everything what Allah commanded us is actually in our ability. So the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala based on the ability. And when Allah commands you to do something, it's based on the ability. But if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks you to stay away from something, prevent something from you, is that was an ability as well? No. No. So the Prophet said, مَا نَهَيْتُكُمْ عَنْهُ فَاجْتَنِبُوهُ وَمَا أَمَرْتُكُمْ بِهِ فَأْتُوا مِنْهُ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. So whatever was prohibited, that you have to leave it, period. There's no like I able, I'm not. But if Allah command you something, that's based on the ability. You get the point, the difference is? Let me ask you a question. There are a person, his father and mother has dispute, and each one of them, they calling him to come. So he came to the Shaykh, said, what I should do? My mother asked me to come, and my father asked me to come, and which one I should obey? He said, أطيع أباك ولا تعصي أمك. It's a puzzle, yes? Obey your father and do not disobey your mother. What that does mean? It's confusing. Obey your father and do not disobey your mother. Where he should go first? His mother. Because he said obey, it's a command. Do not disobey, that's a nahi. It's forbidden. You should not do it. You cannot say I'm able or I'm not. The first one is based on the ability, the second one is not. So ati abaka, if you are able, and do not disobey your mother no matter happen. So he should go first to his mother. You get the point? So here, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala command you to do something that's based on the ability, and we should do what in your ability, that means you reach that level that ittaqullah haqqa tuqatih. That's whatever Allah asks us to do. He's not asking us to something that's beyond that. يا الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Why we are going seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that path? We trip, we step, we slip, we make mistakes. We're not that perfect. Is that right? So, does that matter? It's not that important. What's more important? The end of that way. Al-ibratu bil khawatim. End this matters. So how going to be ended for you? Even if you try your best to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to have a great conscience, you try your best to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you up and down, you make mistakes, that's fine. As long as you try to correct yourself, that's fine. As long as you are having the good end, the good end for the pious one. Do not die unless in the state of Islam. Do not lose hope, and do not lose your faith. Do not lose hope and do not lose your faith. In this society, we need to remind ourselves with this ayah. يَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ حَقَّ تُقَاتِهِ. Yeah, you do your best, your maximum effort. But regardless anything that happened, you couldn't fulfill that one. Do not lose that when you die unless in a state of Islam. Somebody you say, well, I have no control for my death. How and when and where I'm going to die. And that's the point. Because you have no control for that. Try to keep in mind that you are going to die this moment. That's why that you have the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Actually, one thing that might prevent you from doing the wrong act, thinking of death. Because you might die, and that the loss of your action, you're doing the bad things. But to think of death, you know what, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it because I might die on that situation. You know? So try your best to put that fear of Allah between your eyes because death could come any moment. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us not to die and unless in the state of Islam. If you want to die in the state of Islam, you have to live in the state of Islam. So man عاش على شيء مات عليه. If you live in the sake of Allah, you are going to die in the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no doubt. And let me conclude with this. There's a hadith that's a little bit confusing. I'm telling you. It was problematic for me when I was young. Yes. I'll show you the hadith. The Prophet said, إن أحدكم ليعمل عمل أهل الجنة حتى ما يكون بينه وبينها إلا ذراع فيسبق عليه الكتاب فيعمل بعمل أهل النار فيدخلها. Some of you, they will work with the people of Jannah. And then, you know, Allah will wrote that He's among the people of hellfire. He will do as the people of fire act, and he will die on that. That was scary. But at the same time, I said, no, this is what? This is not justice. I said to myself, yes, this is not justice, which is true. Until I never satisfied, until I found the other narration for this hadith. There's another narration was written by Sahl ibn Sa'd al-Sa'idi radiyallahu ta'ala an. إن أحدكم يعمل عمل أهل الجنة وهو يريد الناس فهو من أهل النار. Some of you, they will work as the people of Jannah, but he wants with his action to please people. He is among the people of hellfire. So the one he was working as his appear as the people of Jannah was not aiming to the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You get the point? So there is something was not mentioned in the hadith that's understood from other narrations that the Prophet clarified. So in أحدكم يعمل عمل الجنة as its appear, he will do the action of Jannah as its appear. But inside him, he was not doing that in the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why Allah exposed him at the end of his life, and he did the action of people of fire, then he was thrown in hellfire. So that makes sense, and that clearly, clearer than that. So as long as you are trying your best, and as long as you are sincere, you don't have to worry, bidna subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are going to die in the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gather us around our beloved Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ameen.